The term Muscadin, meaning wearing musk perfume, came to refer mobs of young men, relatively well off and dressed in a dandyish manner, who were the street fighters of the Thermidorian reaction in Paris in the French Revolution. After the coup against Robespierre in the Jacobins of 9 Thermidor Year II, or the 27th of July 1794, they took on the remaining Jacobins and sans-culottes, and largely succeeded in suppressing them over the next year or two. In prints they are often seen carrying large wooden clubs, which they like to call constitutions. They were supposedly organized by the politician and journalist Louis-Marie Stanislas Fréron, and eventually numbered 2,000–3,000. They in fact seem to have mostly consisted of the lower middle classes, the sons of minor officials and small shopkeepers, and were quietly encouraged by the shaky new government, who had good reason to fear Jacobin mobs and wider unrest as the hard winter of 1794–5 saw increasing hunger among the Parisian working class. The Muscadin are considered to be part of the First White Terror in response to the preceding reign of terror of the Jacobins. The jeunesse dorée came to have a considerable influence on the National Convention, and after the Jacobin revolt of 12 Thermidor Year III, are held to have forced the arrest of the 4 main ringleaders remaining from the Jacobin regime: Jean-Marie Collot de Bois, Bertrand Barrère de Vieuzac, Jacques-Louis David and Jacques-Nicolas Billaud Varenne, who were all transported to French Guiana. After they had succeeded in suppressing the sans-culottes, the usefulness to the government was over, and they began to pose a threat. After the whiff of grape shot in the crisis of 13 Vendémiaire, they ceased to be a significant factor in Parisian politics. The term Muscadin existed well before the post-Thermidor gangs, who are also referred to as the jeunesse dorée or simply les jeunes gens. The term had long been current in Lyons, used by the working class of white-collar domestic servants, shop boys and clerks of the merchants. An element of effeminacy was implied. In 1789, at the start of the revolution, a royalist militia was raised in Lyons, with the encouragement of the city elite, and containing many of their employees, and the revolutionary opponents started to call them the Muscadins. Perfumed or not, they were an effective military force in the area for nearly a year, before being disbanded after it was clear the national events had overtaken them. Their equipment and nickname was transferred to the local Garde Nationale, and when Lyons was besieged by Jacobin armies in 1793, the term became known in Paris. In that year the term was used in the battle between the Jacobin publications Le Père Duchesne, written by Jacques Hébert, and La Vieille Cordelière, written by Camille Desmoulins, with Hébert using it in criticizing Desmoulins. The split among the Jacobins was to be resolved the next year by the execution of both men, with many of the respective factions in the meeting of the Committee of Public Safety that moved against the Hébertists in March 1794. Barrère complained that Muscadins, along with foreigners and deserters, were seen to congregate at the theatre, dressed with ridiculous ostentation, and show themselves with dirty stockings, large moustaches, and long sabres, threatening the good citizens, and especially the people's representatives. He saw them as supporting the ultra-radical Hébertists. Costume. The costumes of the Muscadins are less well recorded than those of the successors, the Incroyables, but appear to have been similar to these. Characteristics include tightly cut coats with extravagantly large lapels, typically in a different color, with large and elaborately knotted cravats and perhaps sashes round the waist. Colors of bright and violently contrasting, with stripes very popular, perhaps a parody of the sans-culottes, for whom stripes were also characteristic. However, more muted versions of some of these characteristics can be seen in the self-portrait painted in jail in 1794 by Jacques-Louis David after the fall of the Jacobins, the Muscadins took to extremes elements of the shared fashions of the day. The walking sticks, clubs or bludgeons are often thick twisted pieces of wood, perhaps artificially grown in that style. They are supposed to have referred to these as their constitution.